Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football. We are taking a pause on the 2022 NFL draft content because we are itching to talk about a little 2022 college football for the upcoming season. And we're taking a look at the team we know best, the Michigan Wolverines, doing a little spring preview, telling you guys what we've been reading from spring practice and our thoughts and opinions going into that 2022 college football season. Dill, I'm going to kick it off to you, and let's just start with the most important position everybody wants to talk about. Cade McNamara, J.J. McCarthy. Break that down a little bit.
I mean, if you're a Michigan fan, you just have to want JJ. I think
Yeah, 100%.
at the end of the day, what you saw in the title game was if we play a team that's overmatched elsewhere in a lot of places, you need a star at quarterback, similar to what Deshaun Watson was doing at Clemson. They were overmatched generally, but they had the best player on the field. And as much as I love McNamara for what he did this year, he'll never be the best player on the field. He'll never even be really close. So I think it has to be JJ.
I think if Michigan wants to consistently win football games and compete at the highest level of college football, you need a stud quarterback. Unless you're a team like Georgia rolling out like the best defense you've ever seen.
Yeah.
J.J. McCarthy is the guy that's going to carry us to kind of that place that we want to go. Now, he did have a shoulder injury. He does not need surgery on it. But that is it's weird. Jim's always been close to the vest with the injuries. He never really talks about what the real deal is. Hopefully that's not too serious because I do think JJ is the guy that if we want to start consistently beating Ohio State, he needs to be playing quarterback, not Cade McNamara. We're not going to be able to run for 6 yards a carry every carry against Ohio State like we did last year. I think we're going to need somebody who not only I said it last year a lot, he opens up our run game more too with that threat to run. Like Cade is just a stick in the mud running. Again, I don't hate Cade, but JJ's athletic ability and the speed that he has opens up a lot of the run game for the running backs too, which that's a nice transition to start talking about the running back. I think most people know JJ has the higher ceiling. I think most people want to see JJ McCarthy coming out next year. Take a look at that running back core. Who's going to lead the team in rushing yards?
You can tell that's going to be a great room because Corum will be better. Edwards started to really come on at the end of the year. So I who's going to lead it? I think that I want to kind of see them both get their share of touches.
Yep.
I don't want they both can. I think Edwards is the better pass catcher. Honestly, maybe a little. It's not like that. Yeah, no, it's not like that difference, but I do think Edwards maybe is slightly better, a little smoother, didn't drop the ball as much. But a great room. Who's going to lead it? I don't think it matters that much. I think you got two guys who are probably going to be pros at some point. So
I think they'll both be pros, no doubt about it. And
I will say we maybe want to go a little more spread with a JJ because these two aren't inside. You want to get them in space. Hassan was a very in the box hammer. I think
Donnie's a little bigger than Blake though. Blake, as much as Blake's yoked up, he's also my height, so it's hard to have him put on and get to 220. Donovan Edwards is a little bit bigger, but I think you said it best. Those are both guys that you want to get the ball in space. They're not necessarily like a Hassan Haskins who's going to get downhill, kind of run through guys. But that's also as much as we miss a guy like Hassan Haskins, we'll miss him big time. You get a little bit more electricity out of both these guys.
Well, I think Edwards can get more. He can, I think, but he was young at the time, but he's got the size. He looks like he's got the body, the build to do it. Yeah. So I think he can, and frankly, I think Corum can too. They're just Haskins wasn't electric in space. That was probably his one weakness. These two both are very much so. So I think, although they can both go inside, you want them with the ball in space. You want them making the big plays that you saw them make. So I think JJ does fit that part of their game a little more.
Let's move on to that offensive line because I think this offensive line unit is, as much as we're losing Stuber, we're losing Restardis, I think it's going to be one of the strengths of the team. Ryan Hayes, he struggled a little bit, especially in that Penn State game, but I think he's an all Big Ten left tackle. He's going to be solid. He's been good for us for a couple of years. The guy I'm most excited for is this transfer. I'm going to butcher his name every time. He's transferred from University of Virginia. 24/7 has him as a top 20 guy in the transfer portal. I mean, he was like one of the best centers in the country last year. And as good as Vistardis was, like there's a reason that he's not going to the NFL. He's capped physically. He's very good. He was a team leader, the grandpa of the team. But like this guy has some serious nasty in him from what I've seen on his tape. I'm excited to have him, Zach Sinner, and Trevor Keegan inside because that's going to be a 3-man wrecking crew. One of the best interior offensive lines we'll see in the country next coming year.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance we get better at up front. And that's crazy because we were so good, but getting Keegan back and getting Hayes back was so big.
Zach Zinner's
and as good as he just couldn't have gone. That's the only reason I said it like that. But I think we're getting better at center, and Stuber will probably he'll hurt because he was, really dominant last year, especially in the run. But we do have two guys in Jones and Barnhart who have both shown at times that more so Barnhart, he's played more, but Jones used to come in on the heavy packages and do his thing there. So I think we're going to have two good options there. So I'm really excited for this group.
Who do you think gets the nod at right tackle?
I honestly think Jones will, because I'm guessing next year it's going to be Jones at right, Barnhart at left. But I don't know. It's hard to say.
I think they want to get Carson Barnes. I mean, it's interesting because both those guys have been guys we've heard about for the last couple of years, and like they're good players. They just couldn't really find any burn because Vistardis was there, or because Stuber was there, because Ryan Hayes was there. I think you said it best, though. It's so important to have like a strong 6-guy rotation because, like last year, people were getting banged up. You had to throw in other guys. Trente Jones is a guy who can play both sides of like both tackle spots. He's going to be a very good 6-man. I personally think Carson Barnhart will get the nod at the starting right tackle spot. But then looking at the 2 deep, like there's a lot of guys. Greg Crippen's a guy that I think is going to be really good for us. He might need to sit out another year, but like during his 3rd year, he's going to be.
Well, of course, he's going to sit out another year. Where's he going to play?
No, I'm just saying, like, I think he's a good enough guy to start. I just think it's unfortunate that we have unfortunate for him that we have such a loaded interior offensive line because I think he's a really good football player.
Yeah.
Giovanni Ahadi is another guy to watch. He's not listed on this depth chart. He's another guy that I'm excited for. Raheem Anderson. Like we have some young guns in the interior offensive line that I'm very excited for. It's a loaded unit. I mean, we have good depth. We have a good starting 5. That 6-man rotation is important. I think it's going to be an improved offensive line, which again, you noted is crazy because it was our best position group last year probably, and it's probably going to be one of our stronger position groups next year. Wide receivers. Just got his head down.
This is a sneaky unit that might be like way, way better. Like we were good last year. I think they were capped a little bit by the quarterback play, frankly, because they just weren't used enough.
The offense in general. When we let Cade, like when we had to cook it against Michigan State, like we saw these wide receivers make some absolute plays for us. It just wasn't really how we wanted to structure our offense. Maybe it was because Cade McNamara was our quarterback and he's a little bit more limited in what he can do. Or it's just the fact that we had so much success running the football, we didn't really need to throw the ball. But this wide receiving group, who are you most excited for? Has to be Andrel.
I mean, I think Andrel's the best.
Yeah, I mean,
well, it's tough. I think Cornelius Johnson might be the best guy on the field now, just because he's a senior and he's really been good for 3 years, in my opinion. Anthony Andrel, though, like peak was so good last year. He was up and down, I think, and he was young, but really after the Michigan State game, he caught the ball against Georgia, but he didn't get a ton of. He had a nice play against Penn State. So I wish he
got more burn. When he played, he was like our best wide receiver. He had a great catch against Penn State. Obviously, that 95-yard touchdown against Michigan State. Like when he was playing consistently, I thought he was our best wide receiver. He's extremely smooth. He's got great hands. He's talented. And he's got absolute burners.
I feel like you're not giving Cornelius the credit he deserves.
I like Andrel more. Yeah, no, I for sure. It's definitely like I have a pretty clear. It's not even like I don't like Cornelius because I think he offers a lot, but I think Andrel's got that special ability to create separation and win after the catch. Cornelius is an
Johnson's
awesome jump ball guy.
He's
Downfield.
He's awesome. Yeah, he can do that. And he was the big play guy, at least vertically.
Vertically, yeah.
But you also saw him catching crossers over the middle and making a lot happen and making big plays.
Was that against Penn State where we needed that third down conversion?
We needed that.
Yeah.
I just think he's just so good at everything. And I just think he can be way better with a guy who likes to take more chances, likes to push the ball a little more. And so I think he's going to really have a year.
And this is crazy that we haven't even talked about possibly the best wide receiver that's going to be coming back from Michigan, and Ronnie Bell, a guy that he's easy to forget about. Don't forget, against Western Michigan, he looked like the guy. He looked like he was going to be the guy to lead that wide receiving room. He's a veteran. And he was a low recruit, a 2-star recruit from Missouri. He was a really good basketball player. But all he's done at Michigan is just be the most consistent wide receiver in the room for years. And he's coming back after the ACL injury. And I like the idea of having that veteran. I think he's going to be a 5th-year senior.
That's the big thing for me is the talent is there, but he's also going to be I'm hoping he can be our leader in the pulse. And
he was the pulse last year.
It was hard last year. Yeah. And it's hard when you're not on the field, but I do think everyone seems to respect him. And it's so big because we needed that guy. We needed the alpha dog, because we did lose the Aiden Hutchinsons to the starters, the Stubers.
Yeah.
Some big leadership out of that. And to get Ronnie Bell back so big, I think.
Yeah.
And then you have some guys coming in like the Roman Wilsons, the AJ Hennings, they're kind of niche weapons at times because Roman Wilson's a burner. Granted, I think he can do a lot, but I think his main skill set is getting deep and pushing. Henning was good getting the ball on reverses and screens. And so I think we have a lot of weapons at this spot and even kick it over to the tight ends, another unit that might be very, very good.
I want to touch one more on the wide receiving core because I have a take, and I want to keep this a little short. We could talk Michigan football forever. I want to see a little bit more consistency with who we're using at wide receiver. I personally thought there was just a little bit too much of a 6-5-6-man rotation. I think it's important to kind of give that quarterback wide receiver battery a little bit more chemistry. I thought we were running on AJ Henning and then running on Andrel Anthony and running on Roman Wilson. And it's I wish that we had a little bit more Cornelius Johnson was the only guy who was consistently playing football on the field all the time. You look at the Ohio State wide receivers Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith-Njigba. They were on the field 90% of the snaps. I want to have a solid 3-4 guys that are going to be on the field 90% of the snaps. Now that's hard when you have 6-7 guys who you think can produce for your offense and you want to get them all touches. You don't want them in the transfer portal, but I want to see a little bit more of that kind of consistency with the quarterback wide receiver battery. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I'm less concerned about it just because I felt like it worked last year. I feel like whatever they were doing, I think the wide receiver play was really good for the most part. I didn't see a ton of drops. I think part of it is the nature of they were asked to block a lot. And they were asked to do those sort of hard things. So to keep them fresh, you rotate them in and out. And I don't know, how many did you think were even going? It was pretty much Cornelius, Henning, Wilson, and Andrel a little bit. But it was really the 3 of them.
Yeah, I wish we saw more Andrel Anthony. And Mikey Sandstrail, don't forget him. He played.
Oh, yeah.
I just wish we saw more Andrel. What you saw between JJ and Andrel was something that just got to get you so excited. The chemistry was there. They obviously put a lot of work in off the practice field. After practice, I heard they do a lot of routes together. I think that can be a special tandem to kind of carry us in the future. And so I kind of want to see a little bit more of that this season, especially looking at the schedule where there's a lot of cupcake games first 6 games of the season. Let those guys start cooking a little bit, getting that confidence going. Because again, both of them are going to be second-year guys. You mentioned the tight ends, Eric All. He's going to be a stud. He's just getting better and better and better. I thought he could have personally won to the draft this year. Probably would have been a day 3 pick. extremely happy he's back. Schoonmaker's back for his 6th year. Joe Honingford is back for his 6th year. Joe Honingford, more of that like transition from tackle to blocking tight end. Schoonmaker is a very good tight end too, but Eric Alckmin, an all Big Ten guy. He is.
Yeah, Eric All had a great year last year. He blocks. He caught the ball more consistently, which was huge, and makes plays after the catch.
I think the offense is going to cook. Like I am extremely happy. We're returning a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. I think they're going to score points. I think that's the unit that's going to improve. It's hard to argue that the defense is going to be better than it was last year. We're losing the guys that kind of made our defense how dominant it was in Aiden Hutchinson, David Ajabo, Chris Hinton. Josh Ross was very good. Brad Hawkins was very good. Vinny Gray was solid. But we're also returning a lot of guys to be very excited about. Let's start with that defensive front. Who are you most excited to see kind of break out this year?
I mean, Upshaw is going to need to have a year. I think you saw bones of the abilities last year and at times looked very good, but he was just hard to get on the field with Hutchinson and Ojabo playing as much as they were.
Yep.
But he's going to need to be the guy. I think he's the best pure pass rusher coming back, or at least the one guy we've seen have the skills.
Yep.
So he's going to need to be huge, and obviously Mazi Smith getting him back is massive because he was our best interior guy.
Mazi Smith was better than Chris Hinton, 100% last year.
Hinton might not get drafted. So.
One guy I want to see is Braden Mcgregor. I know he's not he wasn't, to be quite frank, he hasn't been impressive yet as a Michigan Wolverine. He was a high recruit coming out of school. He had a torn ACL, I believe, his senior year of high school, and that kind of hurt his ability to get on the field as a true freshman during the COVID year. And then this year was just hard to get him on the field with Hutch, Ajabo, Mike Morris, Taylor Upshaw, Jaylen Harrell. All those guys were playing really good football. And so he kind of just found it hard to get some burn. This year's his ability to, let's see if he can make that step, kind of get his feet wet a little bit and make some noise for Michigan, because he's a guy that I think got all the talent in the world. We just haven't really seen him play much. One other guy that I'd note that I'm kind of excited for is Jaylen Harrell. He started over David Ajabo the first couple of weeks. And I think that's because he's such an animal in the run game, like setting the edge, making plays, standing up tackles in the run blocks. He's awesome. But you just limited.
Yeah, you like this. Well, that's what you maybe think as of now, but I don't think you got a ton of chances
because David Ajabo just emerged as such a dominant.
So at some point, we're gonna. If he can really bring it on the pass rush side, yeah, him and Upshaw is like a kind of a tandem at the end with Morris and McGregor working in, or Bennett or Guy, whoever can kind of get in.
Yeah.
But if those two can really be the leaders and be this, okay, these are the starters and these guys are kind of stars, that'd be huge.
Yeah. And one other
guy. I just love Chris Jenkins. He's my favorite player on the team. Yeah, I just love what he does.
He's an energizer bunny. And then Rayshon Benny. I'm excited to see if he can get on the field a little bit. I think we'll need him because we are a little bit Julius Welshoff. I just don't think he has it on the interior, quite frankly. And we're going to need some depth there because we lose Chris Hinton. We lost Don Jeter. Rayshon Benny looked like a little kid last year. You could tell that's offensive. He looked like he wasn't developed yet to start and be a guy in the interior at a Big Ten school. But that's how a lot of guys look. He was a high recruit. I think he's got a lot of ability. I'm interested to see if he can give us some solid.
He also didn't come in that heavy. I think he listed
exactly.
as 275. So they put a lot of weight on him.
Mm-hmm.
And
the old bulking shed.
But I think he's got the game to do it. Hopefully, or you don't know it, but you definitely hope so. Because if he can be huge, and we can have Mazi and him really as going the two big dogs in the middle with I think Jenkins is more of a utility guy. You fit him in where he fits in. He can play kind of both ways.
Who's playing D tackle? Mazi is the one guy, and then it's it might be a Mike Morris slips in or Chris Jenkins slips in because they're bigger bodied guys but more of edge guys. We'll see. That's easily the biggest question mark coming into the 2022 college football season is that defensive line. Obviously, you lose Mike McDaniel, you lose Sean Newell, but you're bringing in that Notre Dame guy. I forget his name. He's worked there at 10 years.
Elston or something, Mike Elston.
Yeah, Mike Elston. Like he's going to be. We'll see what he can do with that defensive line because it's easily the biggest question marks. The next two groups, the back end and the linebacker, I think gets better. As good as Josh Ross was from Michigan, I think athletically he was a little bit capped, and there are some guys coming up behind him who I'm a little bit more excited about. Junior Colson, he was getting better every single game, and I think he's going to be a stud at linebacker for us. Nikhil Green is a very similar vein.
Loved his game.
Both those guys were getting their feet wet this year, or last year. I think they'll be able to be some absolute studs this year. Khalil Mulling's a guy I'm excited. He's had a hand injury for the first couple of years that he's been there. I'm excited to see what he brings in. Mike Barrett. You know how I feel about Mike Barrett. I love Mike Barrett.
He's one of the most likable guys on the team. He's
a rider. I mean, there's not many guys who would be he was awesome during the COVID year, by the way. He was our best linebacker during the COVID year. I think everybody thought he was going to start. And then Nikhil Green took a spot in spring and summer camp. And then he didn't play at all. I don't know if he got in Jim's doghouse. I don't really know what it was.
Well, he started to come in, and they gave him more work as when they were trying to not go as light in the box as they would, but still want athleticism. I think that's where he fits in. When you want to go three linebackers, but you also want a guy who's going to be a little more athletic and dynamic. I think that's a perfect spot for him. Yeah,
a
heavy nickel or something.
I think he can play. I think he can start at linebacker.
The thing was, they had Dax last year to do kind of what he was, because Dax had the ability to play in the box at a high level while being the cover guy. So I think he kind of took his role a little bit. So I'm thinking they may need to rely on him a little more.
I'm excited for Mike Barrett. You know how I feel about him. I love him. Let's look at the back end that I think was kind of been our struggle, especially when you look at can we crack the Ohio State? We just struggled in it with our secondary the last couple of years. I think part of that was Don Brown just leaving our guys on islands when they clearly just weren't capable of being left on islands. But this is a loaded secondary group. Now, I'm not even going to start with the cornerbacks. I'm going to start with Rod Moore. Rod Moore came in as a true freshman last year, 3-star true freshman. Why is he playing? And he was a stud. He's just an absolute stud. One of our best guys in the secondary. DJ Turner was absolutely awesome coming in his first year of really playing meaningful snaps. And then this is interesting. We've heard rumors about it. Mikey Sandstrail. I think it makes sense because of how deep that wide receiving room is. And Mike Sandstrail's a guy that he's going to do whatever he can to help the football team.
Another just likable guy. I mean that's a projection. Who knows? Unless you're watching every practice, which they'd never let anyone do.
Yeah,
you can't really know that, and not that Jim would ever say, but I think he can be a weapon there. He does have he's got the movement skills.
Elite short area quickness. Yeah,
it almost makes me think that's almost makes more sense to him because he was awfully small as a wide out and. You can be that, but it's harder. You need to have some extra gear in you to play at that size at wideout. And who knows? Maybe he can. I mean, he was a very good blocker. I think he'll be able to be physical with guys, and I'm kind of excited to see what he can do.
And then
they must think there's something in him.
Will Johnson.
I think him and Sab are going to play a lot.
So that's what I wanted to mention. Will Johnson, we know, is a bona fide stud. He's going to be a true freshman this year. Yeah, I think he'll start. I think he's better. DJ Turner might be our best cornerback, but I think he's better than Giovanni Green. I think he's better than Jalen Perry. I think he's going to start at one of those cornerback spots, obviously with Vinny Gray departing. This is what I want to talk about. RJ Moten might be on the hot seat a little bit because I wouldn't be surprised if Keon Sabb is – RJ Moten's probably our worst guy in the secondary. Again, not that I don't like RJ Moten, but I think he probably was the least impactful guy in our secondary last year. Keon Sabb might be bearing down on a spot. Keon Sabb.
Keon Sabb's a high recruit. He looks like he's got the size to play right now.
He's coming in early. I think he just lacked he's big guy. I just think he kind of lacked that range and ball skills to dropping that interception against Ohio State. He had.
I think RJ Moten again. It comes down to being he wasn't a liability by any means. He was fairly solid.
How much?
It's more I don't totally see him as like a pro.
No.
And Keon Sabb, very good chance he may be. I mean, based on his high school recruiting, which is what it is. But I think he's a guy who could be maybe more impactful, more of a pro impact. And yeah, if he can, then yeah, RJ Moten is in maybe a tough spot. But
yeah, and we have a couple true freshman guys, and Derek Moore also is on that list. Like those guys have the ability to like make impacts quickly.
Yeah, because the offensive guys, it's gonna be hard to play offense on this team as a true freshman just because they're loaded. I know they have Darius Clemens up, but I mean he's got 3 guys who are stars right in front of them. And
Christian Dixon's also a really good football player, so it's
yeah, you got to fight through. There's like a loaded group. So,
but for that defense,
on the defense, there's some opportunities.
I want to see and looking at this schedule real quick, and we'll wrap up the show. Colorado State, Hawaii, UConn, Maryland. Like our first big test is going on the road to Iowa, which is a tough place to play, but I don't think Iowa's got the juice to really challenge us either. Like those are some games to let those young guys get their feet wet. You play Indiana on the road, they're not very good. And then you have Penn State and Michigan State. This is the year that we both have them at home, and this is a year that I don't think either of those teams will be that good. Neither of them are in my top 25. I might be sleeping a little on Michigan State. Rutgers, Nebraska, Illinois, Ohio State. One of the easier schedules we've had. We don't play Wisconsin. We play both Penn State and Michigan State in the big house. And then obviously the big kahuna, we're going to Columbus to try to knock off Ohio State, who's going to be very good this year. But I think this schedule lines up to be a very fruitful schedule to allow those young guys to get their feet wet, let them start cooking a little bit and see what they have. Because at the end of the day, we're starting to see more and more true freshmen being built like they can play year one in college. I think some of these guys can do it on the defense side of the ball.
Great. I'm really excited. I think I'm very excited. I mean, I always am. It's just like, how can you not be going into a season ever?
It seems like this team is the culture is changing a little bit. And you heard Blake Corum on a podcast. I've never lost to Ohio State. COVID year.
People who say they're not excited for their college football season, like I just don't get how you can. I'm excited every year.
You don't invite them to your dinner party. Don't invite guys to say we want to stop. We don't want to talk about college football in March because we're
not even just talk about it, but like thinking your team is going to win a title. I think it every year. That never matters.
Never matters.
And I don't get people who don't. It's like, why even go into the season then?
Yep, I agree.
And I get it. Like college football, you can have Michigan had a great season. Obviously, didn't win a title. So college football is different than that in the NFL. But I don't get how. I always think we're going to be great. I always think we're going to beat Ohio State.
I promise you, all you listeners, he absolutely does. That is a wrap on the 2022 Michigan Spring Preview. We'll be back with giving you guys some summer previews as spring game winds down and we get into summer workouts and the spring August camp. So stay tuned for that. We appreciate you guys rocking with the ROC Boys as usual, and we'll be getting back to some more 2022 NFL draft content after this. Peace.